Good morning. Our universalist heritage proposes that each person is made of divine goodness, and science offers that we are stardust. Whatever your beliefs, know that you are a gift inherently worthy of love, and we are glad that you are here. In this moment of our shared journey, may you feel witnessed and honored, because love is the spirit of all souls. Let us now greet our neighbors, both new and returning folks, with our names and pronouns. Good morning and welcome to all of those who are with us in the moment and those joining us later on. I'm Austin Mitchell. My pronouns are he, him, and I'll be serving as worship associate for today's service, together with Nancy Olson, Director of Congregational Life and Faith Formation, whose pronouns are she, ella, and Liz Elsmore, our pianist, pronouns she, ella. We are your worship team on the chancel today. Reverend Katie, our senior minister, is with her mother in Florida and will be with us next week. We extend a warm and joyful welcome to people of all ages. If you have little ones with you, nursery care is available for your convenience. We invite everyone to connect with us by filling out a connection card. You can complete a physical card located in the pews and place it in the offering basket, or you can fill out a digital connection card by scanning the QR code located just outside the sanctuary. This is a fantastic way to let us know how we can support you or how you can share any interests, comments, or questions that you have. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe in access to reproductive care, and so we are currently collecting Plan B to have it accessible for folks in the future. So if you feel willing and able to donate any, it will be a great support in our mission to promote access. Today, we welcome Ken Falk, Legal Director for the Indiana ACLU, for longer than I have been alive. Yeah. For longer than I've been alive, he's been doing the essential work of defending rights and civil liberties. He said he didn't need to hear that part. Sorry. He comes from a distinguished academic background, has done prolific work for decades, and we're honored to have him with us today. As we begin our time together, we acknowledge the land itself and those who have sustained it through the generations. We are upon the unceded land of the Lenape, Miamia, Kaskaskia, Shawnee, and Kickapoo people who were pushed from their land and whose children have been stolen for generations. As we strive to be a community of justice, may we continue to find ways to make real reparations. And now, I share with you the words of Reverend Maureen Killoran. Welcome, you who come in need of healing, you who are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome with your problems and your pain. Welcome to your joys and your wonderings. Welcome your need to hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here may you find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles. People with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of our day.
Thank you, Austin. James Samuels is lighting our chalice today, one of our parents. Thank you, James. This ritual of lighting our chalice, it reminds us to continually renew our promise to live into our covenant, to put love into action, and to live out this community of love and justice we aim to be. If you would please rise in body or spirit as we share the words that are printed in your order of celebration. Those words are in Spanish and English, and if you are with us online, we'd love to know where you are lighting your chalice from. We will say the words in Spanish first. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley, vivir juntos en la paz, buscar la verdad en el amor, y ayudarnos unos a otros. Este es nuestro pacto. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. Thank you, and I stay standing, correct? For singing? Are we singing together? Yes. The words are listed in your order of celebration.
The words for We Walk in Love were not listed in your order.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So we are pivoting, and we're going to sing the first two verses of Rise.
I thought they were.
And then the next time you see Rise in the order of service, we'll sing verses 3 and 4. Okay. So right now, the first two verses of Rise, which is printed in your order of service. I will
I need a lot of help today. So we are entering the last week of Black History Month. So it seemed only fitting that we have a story that we lift up a significant moment in the history of the civil rights movement. Too, because you're so tall. So tall. Maybe right there. Thank you. It seemed fitting, really, that we take a moment and lift up this important time. And I guess I just want to ask for a little show of hands. How many people are familiar with the Children's Crusade or the Children's March? Not the one in 1650, but the one in 1963. How many people? Let me see your hands. Raise up. Yeah, okay. I had a similar feeling that I didn't learn about this until I was older, until I was an adult. I did not learn about this in school. So, for those of you who have not heard of this, today we will enlighten you. Okay. We're going back to 1963, January 14th. That was the day that Governor George Wallace was inaugurated. And part of his inauguration speech was this: segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Now, some of you may know that back in Birmingham, that was one of the most difficult and challenging places to be a person of color back then. And the civil rights leaders had been working along. They had been doing quite a bit. And really, in 1955, when Rosa Parks refused to move to the back of the bus, that really started that civil rights movement. But then things kind of started to wind down, and the leaders were struggling to keep this lifted up in people's awareness of what was happening. So Martin Luther King went to Birmingham, gathered some people together. They had a march, but then on April 3rd, there was the first organized sit-ins that took place at downtown lunches. On April 12th, Martin Luther King and other protesters were arrested after leading a nonviolent protest for demonstrating without a permit. Then Martin Luther King came and he had to have a meeting with everybody. They all met together, the Baptist church, talking about what can we do? How can we get out there? We have to raise the awareness of what is happening here. But the adults were afraid. They said, we will lose our jobs, we will lose our homes, we will be hurt. We cannot do this. Well, this is the story I've heard. So the youth started standing up and they said, we can do this. We can get together. We can march down the street. And of course, there were some leaders in the movement who were afraid for the youth. They did not want them to be marching and to be harmed. But then there were others, like the Reverend James Bevel, who said, let them march. Let them march. Let's help organize them to march. And he was quite the strategist, so from what I've read. So on May 3rd, Double D-Day, or D-Day as they called it, the Birmingham Children's Crusade begins. And this, at 11 a.m. that morning, children all around the city and outside of the city left their schools. They all left their schools, they got on the streets, they started walking to the center of town, walking peacefully, just as Martin Luther King had instructed them, walking, singing, and walking together. By the end of the day, there were 973 young marchers had been jailed. May 3rd, the youth came back, and they called this Double D-Day. They returned More protesters were arrested, most of them under the age of 18. And Commissioner Bull Connor, he authorized the use of high-pressure water hoses, hose people down, brought out the dogs to stop them, to control the crowd, and there were close to 1,000 more who were arrested. The jails were full. Adults came and started helping. The jails were full. The jail yard was full. The protests from May 4th through 9th, the protests escalated as more adults joined the marches, and the jails were at maximum and plus capacity. Thousands of young people were imprisoned. Now, I will just say on a little aside here, we have this teaching tolerance video in the library, and it is a 40-minute video with footage from that time. And if anybody is really interested and wants to know some more, these are actual interviews with youth who walked, as well as people during that time. So this is an interesting thing. On May 10th, Dr. King and other protesters, other organizers and protesters, made an agreement. They reached an agreement with the city that the city leaders would begin the process of desegregation. After thousands, 3,000 or more people had been jailed. So they reached that agreement. And what's the next date I have there? Oh yeah, May 19th, that's good. We're on the same page. The school board then, on May 19th, expelled quite a few students. But the federal judge overturned that expulsion just 3 days later. On June 11th, President Kennedy, he gave a speech on television, and he talked about the civil rights, urging Congress to please pass that legislation. And on July 23rd, Birmingham officially withdrew its segregation ordinance. August 28th, over 250,000 people descended on Washington, D.C., where Martin Luther King gave his very famous I Have a Dream speech. And on November 22nd, President Kennedy is assassinated in Dallas, Texas. But in 1964, on July 2nd, Congress passes the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlaws discrimination based on race, religion, sex, or national origin. And October 14th, Martin Luther King Jr. is awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And on August 6th, in 1965, just 2 years later, the Voting Rights Act ended practices that had barred African Americans from their right to vote. The children and the teens in 1963 changed the world in ways that they would never have known. They would have no idea that they could have imagined that. Those children taking those steps, of course with the support of the adults, made such a difference. And President Kennedy, when he went on television, he said every American ought to have the right to be treated as he wished to be treated, and one would wish his children to be treated. The visions, the pictures of how those children were marching made such a big difference. Years later, one of the women who marched when she was a youth, Janice Kelsey, when she was asked, what message would you like to give children? And I would say adults too. And she said, I want young people to know that each one has the ability to make a difference in their environment. You just have to have enough courage to evaluate the situation and stand up for what is right. And I will just say, I don't know for each of you how this story might speak to you, but it certainly speaks to each of us and the voice we have to come together. Thanks. Now we can just, take it down.
So now we'll rise and bow
Please join me in taking a few moments to note that which is currently bringing joy or sorrow to our community. May we hold a moment of silence together for the joys and sorrows in our hearts that are unnamed. Thank you. And now, please rise and body your spirit as we sing hymn number 83 in the gray hymnal, Winds Be Still.
Winds be still, storm clouds pass and silence come. Peace breathes this time with our glory. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in calm let our fight tranquility. Bird fly high, lift our gaze towards distant view, help us to sense life's mystery. Fly high and far, and lead us each to see how we move through the winds of eternity. Light shining, illuminate our inward view, help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in new songs that become full symphony.
Good morning, everyone. So I was here, I don't know, a year plus ago, talking about our abortion case, which I will talk about for a second. But a number of people have come up to me and said they were looking for me to be hopeful and inspirational, so whoa. People usually don't look for lawyers for hope and inspiration, so it's putting a lot of pressure on me on a Sunday morning. Thank you. I'll give it a try. We're living now through a dark time, and the reason it's a dark time is not necessarily just because of what's happening in Washington or what we're reading about. It's the recognition that there is a pool of hatred and intolerance among us, Americans, that somehow was paved over. We knew it was there. You know, we knew that there were groups. I've represented the KKK, so I know it's there. But we don't really know it's everywhere. And somehow, that intolerance, that fear, because much of intolerance comes from fear, the fear of someone different, the fear of something unknown. The recognition that somehow that fear and intolerance has been liberated. And we see it everywhere. You know, I represent people who are trans. I represent people who are poor. I represent prisoners. I represent you name it. I represent people who are not citizens. And you see it everywhere. And there are bulwarks, there's laws, there's the Constitution. You know, the president can talk about ending birthright citizenship, but the 14th Amendment says you have birthright citizenship. So I think that's going to end like that. And thank goodness for courts that are going to recognize that law is what law is and issue decisions. And we've seen a flurry, more than a flurry, we've seen an enormous amount of legal activity responding to some of the things that we've heard coming out of Washington. But there's a limit to what courts can do. And at some point, it's on us. Not us lawyers, teachers, whatever you do during the day, but it's on us as persons in this country to say, look, that's not me. That's not what I believe in. I don't support that. There's a lot of noise right now. There's a lot, and you know, in the same way that you open up a door that's been locked for a long time, things rush out, and we're experiencing that. But that's not us. It really isn't. And sure, there are good people doing things in great ways, in courts, trying in legislatures, trying in public policy. And those things are going to bear fruit because we have to believe that, right? Not necessarily inspirational, but hopeful. We have to believe that because we're Americans. And we do care for people, and we do have fundamental beliefs, and there are certain fundamental truths, regardless of whether that is based on religious beliefs or secular beliefs or recognition just from a philosophical standpoint that we have to get along to get along. We do have core beliefs. Some of them are enshrined in laws, some of them are enshrined in the Constitution, but most of them are enshrined in us. And we know what's right. So the message is that we have to keep on keeping on, right? Mort Saul, comedian, very famously talked about fighting the madness. You have to fight the madness. And that's what we do. We do it every way we can. We do it by letting people know that's not us. You're not speaking to us when you label every person who was not born in the United States as a criminal. You're not speaking for us when you say that there's only male and female and everyone else is deviant. You're not speaking for us when you say if you're poor, you deserve to be poor, and we're going to put more burdens on you to justify the meager assistance that we, out of our largesse, we give to you. You're not speaking for us. And that's a tough thing to do. It's a tough thing because we don't like to think that way. You know, we like to live our lives. We like to assume things are going to work out. But, you know, if only 2 people had shown up for Martin Luther King's March on Washington, we wouldn't be talking about it 60 years after the fact. And I'm not saying we should head to the streets and engage in marches and what have you. We just need to let our voices be heard. We need to get back to some sense of sanity in this country. Personally, I don't know what's going on in this country because I haven't listened to the news for the last 4 months, but I've heard things are rough. I've gotten very, very intimately involved in various sports, which I never thought I would because you have to look at something when you eat lunch, and I'm not looking at the headlines anymore. But we all fight in our own ways. And thank goodness for courts, where I do my fighting, because courts give victories, courts recognize what the law is. And the law doesn't change because attitudes change. You know, I was here more than a year ago talking about our abortion case. You know, Indiana has this law that basically says you cannot get an abortion, only if you're going to die or have permanent impairment of a major bodily function, or you prove you were raped or have incest. And people came forward to us and said, look, we believe that there are circumstances based on our religious practices and beliefs where we have to get an abortion. Abortion has to be made available to you. Most Jews believe that life does not begin until the first breath, or until the baby is half out of the womb. Before that time, if the woman's health is threatened, you can get an abortion. Our abortion law in Indiana doesn't allow for abortions because of mental health issues. Someone can be demonstrably suicidal because of pregnancy. They can't get an abortion. Many religions believe that the mother's, or the woman's, mental health is a sufficient reason. So we have a law. We have a law in Indiana that says the government cannot substantially burden religious exercise. So we said, well, this seems to violate that law. There seems to be a law which prohibits people from exercising their religious beliefs. And lo and behold, we had a trial court agree with us, enter what's called a preliminary injunction, a temporary order. It was appealed. We had a court of appeals issue a very strong decision affirming that, and now we're back in the trial court continuing to try and make the final point. So that case, so far, so good. It's a very small pebble in a very large ocean. But it demonstrates not just the power of law, but the power of recognizing, hey, this isn't right. Right? People said, here's this law, here's what the government's telling me, and it's not right, and I want to do something about it. And that's something all of us can do in different ways, and all of us must do, because we have to fight the madness. We have to remember, and I really believe this. I'm a very Pollyannish person. Doing what I've done for almost 50 years, you have to be an optimist or a masochist, or maybe a massimist. But this is going to pass. It's going to pass because there's certain fundamental truths about us as human beings, about us as Americans. And much of what is happening now is counter to that. And there's certainly lots of people who don't agree. There are lots of people of goodwill who believe that this is necessary. But I do believe that the majority of us recognize that this is not the way we want to portray ourselves to ourselves, and certainly not how we want to portray ourselves to the world. So I think a lack of hope, pessimism, and inability to do anything or to think that you can make a difference is the enemy here. We all can't file lawsuits. We all can't be lawyers, sorry. I mean, I know you want to be, because it's just the best thing ever. You get to dress up, it's great. I always was a big fan, by the way, of the British system, because I thought wearing a wig would be cool. What we wear ties. Who cares about ties? I mean, wear a wig. But we all can do something, and we all must do something. Whether, as I said, whether we're people of faith, or people of philosophy, or people who just recognize that we know right from wrong, and we know how to do things, we have to be heard any way we can, so that we remind ourselves, remind our neighbors, look, we're not like this. We're not like this, and we're not going to tolerate it, and we're going to fight any way we can against it. So I don't know if that was inspirational. It's the best I could do, but I appreciate being invited, and I appreciate making that connection with you, because I do think it's so also important, not to give in to the darkness. Thank you.
This week, we are sharing our offering plate with the ACLU of Indiana. Now, after hearing Ken speak, I doubt you need more convincing that they align with our UU values. But, just in case, directly from their website, the ACLU of Indiana works to preserve and promote civil liberties, including the freedom of speech, the right to privacy, reproductive freedom, and equal treatment under the law. To contribute, you can give cash or check in the collection plate, or visit allsoulsindy.org and click Give to All Souls here under today's service description. When giving online or by check, please specify if it is for a pledge or share the plate. Thank you for your generosity in supporting the mission of All Souls and for your continued love for one another and for this world. The morning offering may now be given and gratefully received.
I'm the one who can make the difference, yes, I will make the difference against all odds. I will live to share my love with others, yes, I will make the difference. I can make it, take my hand as we make this journey across the land. I'm the one who can make the difference, yes, I will make the difference against all odds. I can live to share my love with others, yes, I
If you were here right now, I would sing to you. Solo le pido a Dios. I only ask God. The Mercedes Sosa version, because she was a poderosa, exiled for her fierce commitment to freedom, unstoppable, a force of nature. I would sing to you in my sometimes pitchy but heartfelt way the wisdom of my people who found their way to resist and thrive through fascist regimes. You would hear in my words how they found each other in something larger, something holy, comunidad, community, in their music and art. Our voices would join the words from all our languages, all of our songs, weaving together to offer a tone, a sound, a song for today, a new sound of freedom. Our strength will be magnified by our voices, and when we end our song, we will smile, because we will know in our bones that we are whole, we are enough. Our strength, our resilience, our hope, our joy, our peace, our souls are ours. Beloveds, we are ancient, we are the present, we are the global majority, and we